Good evening, my name is Sean Boulton. I'm going to tell you a story tonight about how a parking garage and a neon sign turned my life upside down. I live in Yonge and Eglinton. If you know anything about the area, you know it's gone through a lot of change in the last while. And to give you some perspective on it, over the last 10 years, if you take the population of Kenora, Ontario, and drop it into 1 square kilometer around the corner of Yonge and Eglinton, that's what's happened in that neighborhood. Buildings everywhere. But 3 years ago, I was out for a walk and saw this sign up on the parking garage behind my condo building. And it was one of those city planning signs telling you that there was another condo that was going to be built on this parking garage. And, you know, because it was behind my building, I figured I might want to learn a little bit about that. So I went home and I did some research. And I was a little shocked at what I found. You see, they didn't want to build very deep for their building. So they were going to buy spots in the parking garage in my condo building and knock a hole in the wall between the two so that the cars could get back and forth. And that meant all their cars were going to come through our building to get out onto the street because we've got the traffic light on Yonge Street. And worst of all, they were going to move my parking spot. And nobody had said a word to us about this. I didn't like this. I didn't think this was a good thing. And so when the community meeting happened, because there's always a community meeting, I went to go learn some more. And I sat and listened, and I'm pretty sure I didn't talk because I didn't want to be that guy. You all know that guy, right? If you've ever been to any public meeting, you've seen him or her. They're sitting off to the side, all by themselves, but nodding to everybody who comes in because they've seen them at all the other community meetings that they go to. Furiously taking notes. And when they open it up for questions, they are the first one up at the microphone and they're talking about shadows and setbacks and transit studies and traffic impact assessments. That was not me. I just want some information. And like what I heard, I went home and I did the thing you're supposed to do in a democracy. I wrote my city councilor an email, Josh Matlow. And a couple of days later, one of his staff called me and they talked to me about what my concerns were, and they said, look, we'll try to help you out, but the best thing you can do is you actually go to the meeting and you present. You make what they call a deputation and you let the city councilors hear about your concerns. That's how it drives home the impact best. So I did that. November 2nd, 2011, I remember it. I went up to City Hall, Toronto East York Community Council, and I sat down at the desk and I gave my deputation and told them what a mess this parking situation was going to be in my building. And to my surprise, it got results. I didn't expect this. But from the conversation with his staff, they had made a motion and city staff was going to have to work with the developer and the area residents, me, really, because I was the only one who was there. And they were going to have to solve this parking problem so that cars weren't going to be streaming in and out of my building. Apparently, you can fight City Hall. I didn't realize this. But I realized something, that if my neighborhood was going to be changing around me, I really had 3 choices of what I could do. I could whine and moan, which is kind of default setting for I think pretty much all of us. I could sit back and just let it happen, or I could get involved. Now, I don't do anything halfway, so I got involved. If the city had a Twitter account of any kind, I was following. If there was a mailing list for community or council or city council meetings, I was subscribed to it. Whoa. Sorry. That's okay. If there was a meeting of any kind open to the public in my neighborhood, I was there. And I was listening, and I was writing notes, and I was getting up there and asking questions, and oh my God, now I'm that guy. Yeah, it's not a good thing. About a year ago, last August, I guess, I got another one of these agendas in my inbox, and there was a proposal on it for another condo building right down at the end of my block. I knew this project already. It was way too big and way too tall on a way too small lot. It was ridiculous. And I already knew that Josh, my counselor, I call him Josh now, by the way, because I'm that guy, right? But I already knew that Josh was against it. I already knew the city was saying they weren't going to let it happen. So I had no earthly reason to go to City Hall and speak about this condo. But I realized that if I'm gonna be that guy, and I don't do anything halfway, I need to commit to that. And I had actually just been at that committee 3 months before, talking to them about another condo project that was gonna be a disaster, and so I figure if I'm gonna be that guy and commit, I can't just be a crank. I can't be one of those not in my backyard types who says no to everything. Every once in a while, I've gotta go and say, hey, you're getting this one right. So I decided I would do that. And as I kept reading the agenda, I saw something else on the agenda that tweaked my interest. And there was an item on it for the Sam the Record Man sign. Anybody remember Sam the Record Man? Right up the street here, a couple of blocks. Great big lineups outside on Boxing Day for their huge sales. Huge neon spinning records out front. Ryerson had bought that property a number of years ago. And they tore the building down. And the reason they were allowed to do it was because they promised that when they built their new building, the signs would go up, back up on that corner. And you can see the building's not done yet, and the signs aren't up yet. And they decided they just didn't want to put the signs up anymore. It was, oh God, it was unsafe, and it was too expensive. And it clashed with their buildings. We don't want it! And the city was going to let them get away with it. All they wanted to do was put some colored stones in the sidewalk to make it look like the sign, and a plaque on their building, and then someday, somewhere, the signs might go up. But in reality, everybody knew we'd never see those again. I don't know what it was that stuck in my craw about this. I'm a Ryerson grad, maybe it was that, or maybe I just have a heightened sense of fairness and justice, or something like that. But I said, okay, if I'm gonna go talk about the condo, I can talk about this too. And that's what I did. I went back to City Hall and I sat down and I gave my boring, uneventful condo presentation speech. And then I sat down for a few hours because since I'm that guy, I've got nothing better to do with my time. And then I sat down again and told them why they needed to hold Ryerson to their deal. They needed to make them put these signs up, and what a mistake it would be. I've done theater and I've sung in places and stuff like that. I think that a committee room at City Hall is probably the weirdest place I've ever gotten an ovation. But it was kind of cool too. Now, unfortunately, we didn't win that day. We got a better proposal forward, but it was half a measure. It wasn't good enough. Ryerson was still off the hook. And so now, I wanted to save this darn sign. I had to save this sign. And so the next 29 days were an absolute blur. That's when the next council meeting was coming. There were 7 or 8 of us. Most people were in the music industry. They had all been there talking, and we got together and we reached out to every single city councilor, and whether one-on-one or a group, we took meetings with any of them who would give us even 5 minutes of their time. We did newspaper interviews, we talked to bloggers, we did radio hits. 2 meetings with the mayor, by the way, who's as big of a jerk as you all think he is. But he brings senior staff and business leaders to the table, which is great. And we kicked up a fuss. We kicked up enough of a fuss that they sent the proposal back to staff and said to them, no, you gotta do better. You gotta come up with a real plan that's gonna solve this problem. The sign wasn't saved, but it was safer than it had been before. Now, Michelle and I had talked a lot about me getting up here at some point and doing this, and I knew when I did, this was always gonna be the story I tell, because this story of getting involved in my neighborhood and in my city has become the story of my life. And I can tell you that I learned about how if you just leave yourself open to possibilities, fantastic things can happen. And it doesn't matter whether you're 24 or 44 or 64, your passion's gonna find you someday. And that's all well and good, and it's all true, and it would have made for a great ending, but I've got a better one for you. Because last Thursday, I was back at City Hall making another deputation to another committee. And because of that, I get to tell you that when you leave here tonight, you should take a little walk up Yonge Street and stand right out there in front of Yonge Dundas Square, face east, but a block over you see a little short white building. It's an old Hakeem Optical, and then right beside it a taller building, it's an office building. If you look at that spot and remember it, you come back about a year from now, and you stand in that same spot, and you look up at the top of that office building, there is a very, 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 very good chance that you're gonna see those fantastic Sam the Record Man big spinning neon discs up there on top of that building. And I get to end this story by telling you that I helped make that happen.
Yay!
All because I became that guy. Thank you.